You need those suppliers or those subcontractors or those humans that you can depend on, because without that dependency, that interdependence between you and everybody that's in your sphere of influence, it's impossible for you to build the company of your dreams that gives you the lifestyle that you are so craving for and that you absolutely work so hard to try and achieve. How old are you going to be before you start to experience life like you want it? I want to tell you right now, whether you like it or not, there is a better way to do business. Hi everyone, welcome to the Business for Builders podcast. Welcome to you if you're in YouTube land. Hope you're having a great day, or I hope you've had a great day. We're all about building high-performance, kick-ass businesses here at Business for Builders. So wishing you all the best and really thanking you for your attention and for chiming in and, any way that you've engaged with us over the last little while since we've been around, perhaps. We really appreciate you doing that. Don't forget, like and subscribe, all that kind of good stuff. Hit the bell. And if you've got any comments, drop them in the comments section below and we'll get back to you fairly promptly with those. Also, don't forget to hit me up on email directly if you want, max@businessforbuilders.ca. Use and abuse. If you've got any good questions relating to construction business, I'd be more than happy to help out where I can if you've got a few things that you might need clarified. Okay, so today, as usual, wanting to give you some value that you can implement straight away. What I see in amongst the group. Actually, before I get started, don't forget, shoot across to the Business for Builders VIP private Facebook group. That's a really good little community that's just kicked off there, and we're doing our best to add value, and that'll be a great. If you get across there and hit the join button, you're a good sort. I'll let you in. So let's get on with it. Like I said, based on what I see week to week, in the renovation and remodeling sector, because that's what we do, it always is the success of our guys' business really does rest on the shoulders of our suppliers and our subcontractors. Now, that doesn't mean that we just sort of, we flick a switch and it all magically happens. What I'm getting at is that you live and die off your ability to build good relationships with vendors and suppliers and subcontractors. And so it's really important that you become a people person. Now, I know builders even in this town that aren't notorious for being great people. So, the thing is, you've got to really, if you want a successful business, you've got to exist outside your comfort zone. And so, for me, there's a lot of stuff that I'm doing that is not particularly comfortable, but I look it in the eyes and I do it anyway because it's part of my success routine, okay? So, I think it's important that, we get a bit of a balance. And I see this in the personalities with guys within my group and guys outside the group and myself. And, we all have different personalities. It's just such a vast range. But, I think that, my ability to build good relationships with vendors and my ability to build good relationships with subcontractors is very unique to me. I can't give you the 10 top tips on how to, get a good subcontractor, because what I do may not work for you, because I'm a little bit of an aggressive personality. I work hard and I play hard, and I don't accept excuses, and I just all about getting the job done. And my top priority is the client, no question about it. And because my reputation survives because of the experience that my client has. And so it's important that no matter what happens in and around my job sites or my projects, that the client is insulated from all of my subcontractors and suppliers and my personal bullshit. Okay, so we never ever leverage off of things that happen within our business to make excuses for our poor performance. So just keep that in mind. So as you can tell, my tone on this is fairly straight down the line, because I would prefer to maintain a high level of integrity than have people talking behind my back that I'm a bullshit artist. And so you need to really reconcile between being a seagull or a pretender and actually become or develop into a player. And that takes a lot of internal honesty. You can tell me shit all you want, but when it comes down to it, when the rubber meets the road, so in drag racing there's a term, when the clutch drops, the bullshit stops. You can tell me how fast your car goes, but when that light goes green, when that clutch drops, Then we see who's at the other end first. So, it really does, because I think you can put on a charade for so long, but then really after that, at some point, that charade, that facade will be compromised and the real you will come out. Like if you're a freaking shyster and you're just trying to make easy money by ripping clients off, then it's not going to work for you. It'll work for you a couple of times, but you will develop a reputation even without you knowing it. And so you need to operate, above what we call, above reproach. You've got to be above reproach. And that means there's no one that can come back to you and say, oh, he's a shyster or she's a shyster or whatever. So you cannot buy your integrity. Once that trust is dissolved and gone, it does take a significant amount of time to rebuild that. And so it's the only thing that you can't buy, and nobody can put a price tag on that. So do not compromise that. Be straight up and down. And I'm going to run through 7 tips here today that in the event that your project is delayed because of subcontractors and suppliers, because usually that's where the failure takes place, and how we manage clients in that regard. So this is where you're going to hit that situation where you can bullshit your client, or you can just be straight up honest with the client, which always hurts more up front. Guaranteed, I get it. But ultimately, people will feel, we're organic creatures, and people will feel that you have their best interest at stake, that maybe there was something that you did that was a mistake and now you're trying to fix that, and they respect it because you've been straight up with it, or you've been transparent because you've talked to your suppliers and there's a cock up back end and you want to try and remedy that as best you can. So, when facing challenges in delivery dates and potential delays caused by subcontractors and or suppliers, here are some of the best practices for general contractors to handle such situations with clients. Now, I've made reference to best practices for general contractors. What I would urge you to do if you are a subcontractor, my good friend, is to apply very similar protocols when communicating with your builder, with your general contractor, okay? What you're looking for, Mr. and Mrs. or Mr. or Mrs. Subcontractor, is good builders that you can tuck in behind and serve at the highest level, ensure they're the right builder, and let's say they are, so that you can actually develop your own business in that slipstream of that general contractor, okay? So we're not just talking about, I'm making reference to general contractors. It's what I am. It's what I do. It's the business that I'm a part of. But if you're a subcontractor, you can actually, I can speak to that as well, or you can read between the lines and go, okay, that principle applies. If I'm a subcontractor carpenter and I'm down 2 guys on Monday because they had a big couple of nights on the weekend or whatever, I need you need as a subcontractor to apply these 7 principles or points to be able to make sure that your relationship with your builder or general contractor is maintained at the highest level. So here we go. Maintain open communication. Funny that. Inform your clients promptly about any changes in delivery dates or potential delays caused by subcontractors or suppliers, and clear and timely communication will help manage the expectations and build trust. Straight out the gate, we understand that we must set boundaries and manage expectations, okay? It's super important that as a leader of the project, and that's what you are, that you lead. Leaders lead. Lead from the front. Speed of the leader determines the speed of the pack. You, Mr. or Mrs. Builder or general contractor, are the point. You're the one that sets the tone and the temperature, and to make sure that job is coordinated. If you're a builder, you oversee. You're working on multiple fronts. You're working schedules. You're working with clients. You're negotiating, product purchases or procurement and delivery dates, etc. And so it's up to you to make sure that the minute that you come up with something that's going to hijack your schedule, you've got to start communicating. And that should even happen way back from the first time that you get an inquiry, the speed at which you talk to that potential or prospective client, and then the way you operate through the sales process should be one that is very prompt, that's very professional, and it's very open and honest communication. Okay, so that's maintain the open communication lines is super important. Point number 2, prioritize transparency. Be transparent with your clients by sharing the reasons behind the changes and delays. Provide them with accurate information about the situation and the steps you are taking to mitigate the impact. I've got here, do not disguise your incompetence with an excuse. The word that bothers me the most, or the phrase that bothers me the most when I occasionally in the past have talked to some of my Smith & Sons general contractors, is that they say, Max, it's not my fault. And I'm agreeable that it is not necessarily their doing. But the fact that it happens on their watch, the words not my fault is irrelevant. That is irrelevant. Like I object. That is not even grounds for consideration. So when you say it's not my fault, it's just a weak operator, cop out. So don't do it. It's just not appropriate. You're a professional general contractor, so you cop it in the chin. Now, I'm not wanting to beat you down and go, well, I've got to take on the pressure of the whole world. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that if it's happened on your watch, on your job, it may not be what you're doing, but it is your responsibility to smooth out that bump. Does that make sense? That's what I'm talking about. So get out of your mind. And I'm going to talk in a couple of weeks. I've got, I get a lot of inspiration, throughout my doing what I do in my day job. And I've got, in the future, in the not too distant future, I'm going to talk about mindset. And of course, that's not new news, but, we've really got to get our head straight first. If we don't understand that the way I think determines the way I feel determines my actions and activities, and my actions and activities help me develop routines, whether they're success routines or failure routines. I don't know what, you do, but I want to be successful. And someone that is successful never uses the words, it's not my fault, because that's a defensive move. We are always on the offensive. The best form of defense is offense. So we've got to get after that. So we want to make sure that, we are taking steps to mitigate the delay, the challenge, the thing that's come up that's a problem. But we do not want to make an excuse to as a disguise for an issue. And this is why our previous point there was maintain open communication. Point number 2 is prioritize transparency. We don't want to bludgeon the clients to death with the whole bullshit story, okay? Just give us the paraphrase version. The clients don't give a rat's ass. They just want their renovation finished or their project completed. So just do very minimalistic, enough to give them context and understanding, and then obviously you can sort of go to work to try and mitigate and mitigate the impact on your project. Point number 3, assess the impact. Evaluate the impact of the changes on the overall project timeline and deliverables. Identify specific tasks or milestones that may be affected, and communicate this assessment to your clients along with any revised timelines. Now, I was going to talk about change orders down the track, but it might come back to hit me here. So we've got to communicate the assessment to the client. So this is important. You've got to then go and do the work yourself, the legwork. Find out from the sub or supplier what's the take, what's the deal, what's the state of the union, what are we talking? There's all manner of shit that can go wrong. There could be transport en route to said supplier. There could be transport from supplier to project. Sometimes the subcontractor, particularly plumbers, may supply plumbing fixtures and fittings and things like that, and all of a sudden, there's a breakage there. Like, there's all manner of cock-ups that can happen that's going to destabilize your perfect view on how this job is going to roll. And so, I think, who said it? Someone said that, everybody's got a plan until the first punch is thrown. Someone might be able to tell me who that is. I got a feeling that was either a boxer or a UFC fighter. Everyone's got a plan until you take that first smack in the mouth. So, we've got to be we've got to be able to, or have the ability or the bandwidth to be able to take that negative situation, step out of the fray for 1 second, get a very objective assessment on what's happening, and then come up with a plan. And then, of course, communicate the assessment, to the clients. That is super important. So point number 4, to support point number 3, in assessing the impact, you've then got to offer alternative solutions. So propose alternative approaches to minimize the impact of delays. This could involve finding alternative subcontractors or suppliers, adjusting the project schedule, or suggesting workarounds to keep the project progressing. Now, it must be a win-win, guys and girls. You cannot go, well, what about we downgrade you? And I think, I think there was a TikTok post that we put out there once about flipping a dishwasher or some shit. And I'd made it clear that, I can't even remember the context now, but, we were going to swap out a dishwasher. But what I never got to say is that, what we need to do is, if there is a cock up with a dishwasher, and here we go again, and let's say that the client's picked the middle level. Well, if the suppliers advised me that there's been a balls up in the ordering process, I go back to my supplier and go, bro, not my problem. What I need you to do is upgrade my client and get me the next best one that's on the shelf. Not interested in paying extra money. This is the supplier's cock up. And this conversation happens behind closed doors with said supplier. And then we mobilize that, we get an agreement, and they dispatch the product, and we get to keep the project moving. So the tone that I have with a supplier will be vastly different to the tone I have with a client. I'll say, look, here's what we've done. This is the delay we have. What I've done is I've gone and negotiated with the supplier. It's the same make, color, everything like that, but it's actually the next version up. So you're actually getting an upgrade for no cost because of a delay we've had with the supplier. Now that, in the client's eyes, is a bloody win. So when we're talking about it's got to be a win-win, that's good for us because we've got an appliance, and it's great for the client because they're happy because they got an upgrade for free. Supplier can cry me a river. He's just got to get his shit together and figure out where his wheels fell off his wagon. It's not my problem. So, firmness with courtesy, guys. Like I said at the start, I'm a little bit of a confrontationalist, a little bit aggressive in how I operate as a builder. And so I go in with a pretty heavy tone with suppliers because, unfortunately, I am not going to compensate their incompetence. Actually, I could talk to something else here about subs, but I won't yet, I don't think. Right, so offer alternative solutions. That's point number 4, but make sure it's a win-win for both yourself and the client. And look, I'll be honest with you, there has definitely been in my history where I've had to provide something to the client that is equal to or better than the existing, situation or inclusion or whatnot. And occasionally I've had to take a lose. So of course I want a win-win. That's the objective. But in some cases, to keep the client happy, I will take a hit. But really, you don't want to make a habit of that either. Okay, point number 5. Negotiate reasonable deadlines. Engage in discussions with your subcontractors and suppliers to negotiate reasonable delivery dates that align with your client's expectations. Advocate for the project's best interests while considering the constraints faced by subcontractors and suppliers. So that takes a little bit of finesse, because you can jump up and down and scream, and carry on like a pork chop all you like. But at the end of the day, the subs and suppliers, they know their limitations. Whether it's a supplier that says, "Look, I just can't get a truck into the town here for another week," and that's that. Or the subcontractors go, "Look, I'm so far behind, it's ridiculous." So there is definitely sometimes where you're trying to deliver to the client, and this is the hard part, guys and girls. You're trying to deliver at the highest level construction services, and you are absolutely being screwed over by said subcontractor or supplier. And the subs aren't there. They don't wake up in the morning going, "Great, how do I screw over my general contractor or my builder?" They just don't do that, folks. There is some serious management concerns for a lot of subcontractors out there. I agree and I get it. And that's why it's so important to make sure that you vet and you get the right guys and gals working for you. And same with suppliers. They're punching a ticket. They're working there 8 or 9 hours a day. They're not particularly fussed that your job's being screwed over, and they're just going to do what they do. So, this is the hard part, because here we are. We've got that high level of integrity I started to talk about. We want to make sure the clients have that experience that is worthy of a great video testimonial at the end of the job. Meanwhile, it seems like our subcontractors and our suppliers are plotting against our success because they all just want to screw me over. That can be your mindset. So this is why in a couple of weeks I'm going to talk about mindsets. Pretty powerful. That'll be a pretty powerful segment. So, guys and girls. So We want to make sure that we are talking about those lead times. Even though we are trying to negotiate what's best for the project, we do have to be understanding and really clear on the constraints that the subcontractors and suppliers face. All right, point number 6. Point number 6 is document changes. If it's not in writing, folks, it doesn't exist. Exactly. So if my videographer can get that shit right, folks, if you don't understand that principle, then you're very vulnerable. So be careful. Document changes. So maintain thorough documentation of all changes, delays, and corresponding discussions with subcontractor suppliers, and the clients have a clear record of communication and agreements will help manage disputes and ensure accountability. Now, let me just sort of pivot just slightly. This is where if you have not got software with a client portal, then you are going to find yourself chasing emails like all over the place. You've got to be terribly organized because you're going to think you said something in writing or in an email or you got an okay or an authorization, but then you're just thinking, actually, I think we just spoke about it. You've got text message. That's better than nothing. But I would thoroughly, the value, if you can look into client portals, like we have on Build Exact, they have one there that really does, it timestamps and it documents and you can upload files and it really does keep everything as it relates to client negotiations and interactions all in one place. That would be best practice, but you can create files in your email. And if everyone stays on the same thread, because there's nothing more annoying where you're trying to, have a conversation and keep it all on one thread, and then someone bounces you a new email and you're like, oh, come on. And so then what you find is you're rifling through all kinds of communications. And I'm telling you, it's ridiculous. It's out of control, especially if you're in a position where you want to build a multi-million-dollar building company. You are not going to be able to manage that doing it that way. You're going to need something better like a CRM or a client relationship management program, or a job management software that incorporates or has an interface with some sort of client portal where you can interact with clients. That's always the best practice. Furthermore, in the event there is a change, and sometimes it's going to be a change that's negotiated because of a client request. Other times you are going to have a situation where there is a change to maybe materials or deadlines, usually like completion dates. That's all about change orders, and I can bang on about change orders forever. But, if it's not in writing, it doesn't exist. So make sure you document the changes. No handshakes, no verbals. If you have a conversation with a client, that's fine. Get on an email before you mobilize anything to do with materials or labor. Get on the email and go, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Client, great chatting with you today. I understand that what we talked about, I need to make some adjustments to my ordering and to my, labor, etc. This is the scope of work, ... Are you agreeable, that I'm okay to move ahead with this scope of work, and this is going to be the cost to do so, or the structure on how you're going to charge for doing it. Something along those lines, because I'm telling you, if you don't get that response, you just don't move. No dough, no go. That's kind of the deal. Let's go with that. No dough, no go. So just protect yourself, guys. I'm not asking you to be unreasonable. I'm not asking you to be a crazy person. I'm just asking you to be professional and cover your ass. That's what I'm saying. And so if everything was agreed to in principle in person, the client should have no problem agreeing to that in some sort of written format. Okay, so that was document changes, all about change orders. Make sure your job management software, obviously if you do get a job management software, it's going to have the capability of generating change orders. That's going to be a good thing. All right, final point, number 7, mitigate future risks. This is a big one, folks. So everything that we experience on our day-to-day journey as a general contractor or a builder or even a subcontractor, it's all about looking at that experience and really learning from it. Because let's face it, we are, if you're in the building game, you would have done some schooling. I know I had to go and do a certificate in building and construction to get my builder's license. So there definitely was some classroom time, but predominantly we learn on the fly. And I don't believe there's anything wrong with that. It's how we learned our trade. We just showed up on a building site one day and knew nothing and just got told what to do. And so, that's why, I think we do tend to make our fair share of errors as it relates to business management, financial management, human resource management, which is taking me down a route where you probably should have a coach. Anybody that wants to build a significant business really does need to understand the power of a coach. Even LeBron needs a coach. If you're interested, in understanding more about the impact or the power of a coach, email me, max@businessforbuilders.ca. I might have something for you. Just thought I'd drop that in there as well. But point number 7 is mitigate future risks. Learn from the situation and work to mitigate risks in the future. Develop robust contingency plans. Thoroughly vet your subcontractors and suppliers, and establish strong relationships built on reliability and performance. That's called integrity. Reliability means you're a man or woman of your word. Performance means what you say you're going to do, you will do. Okay, so that's integrity. So what you're really chasing down now is good humans. Okay, and I am telling you, they are rare as rock and horse shit. They're hard to find. Okay, so identify what your perfect. We talk about our preferred client profile. What you need to come up with is your preferred vendor profile and your preferred subcontractor profile. Figure out what kinds of personalities gel with you. I know that I'm a bit of a hardhead, but I always do what I say I'm going to do, and I always deliver what I say I'm going to deliver. And subcontractors that I work with in this town, they know I'm a straight shooter, but they know I don't dick them around. And once I give them my word is my bond. That's the deal. And so we want to make sure that, we are mitigating our future risks, yes. And the way we do that is we thoroughly vet subcontractors and suppliers, and we establish and we build over time good relationships. I know the relationships I've got with my electrician in this town was formed, easily 6 years ago, and I only been in this country 8 years. So it's probably, maybe 5 years ago when I first worked with Andy. So, it's super important that when you find those good guys, you don't then take advantage of them and screw them over or whatever. Work with them at the highest level. Don't be taken for a ride, but certainly don't let them take you for a ride. And it's got to be a mutually beneficial relationship. So it's all about good humans, whether it's in-house office staff, whether it's your in-house or your team on the job sites, whether it's subcontractors or suppliers. You need those suppliers or those subcontractors or those humans that you can depend on, because without that dependency, that interdependence between you and everybody that's in your sphere of influence, it's impossible for you to build the company of your dreams that gives you the lifestyle that you are so craving for and that you absolutely work so hard to try and achieve. So remember, effective communication, transparency, proactive problem solving are key to managing these situations professionally while maintaining positive client relationships. There's the balance, folks. That's where it all comes together, okay? So don't forget, email me, max@businessforbuilders.ca, if you've got questions about this episode or anything else as it relates to construction. Be sure to shoot across to the Business for Builders VIP Facebook group, the private Facebook group, and if you're a good sort, I'll be sure to let you in. We appreciate any kind of love that you can give us on the podcast platform of your choice, or any comments below in the YouTube comment section. We will get back to those as well. We really appreciate you hanging with us, and we appreciate all the feedback and all the love that we get. And go build a kick-ass business. I'll see you on the next episode. Cheers.